Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Saturday, March 21st. You having a good weekend? I'm having a good weekend. Guess what? You're not going to believe this. I don't believe this. I have got Steve McRae. The Steve McRae is on my show this morning. So, goodness gracious. Good morning, Steve. How are you doing?
Wow, what an intro. I'm doing awesome, man. I had a wonderful night's sleep. I got up bright and early for this, made myself some amazing coffee, and yeah, I'm good to go.
It is early, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's not so bad on Saturday. I go easy on them on a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to kind of getting up early because of the military, so 6 a.m. isn't too bad. I
Ah,
just, yeah, as long as you get a decent night's sleep, and I went to bed pretty early last
there you
night.
go.
I usually spend a lot of time at night, doing something on the internet, but I was like, nope, not last night. I'm just going to bed.
I used to be a night owl, brother. I got married. Well, all right. So I had an IT company. It was actually called Night Owl Computers because of L wife, or no, because I was a night owl. I stayed up all night and I did all this thing. And then I got married to the wife, and she is a nurse. And like Neil, the 604 atheist, he says she gets up at a stupid hour. And that's yeah, dude. So now I get up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. A morning show seemed easy. So
Yeah, been there, done that. My circadian rhythm has always been off. When you're in the military, you work all kinds of hours. Getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning is par for the course to stand an early morning watch. So
And
well
nobody
done it.
seems to understand. If you're a night owl and you stay up late and then you sleep late in the morning, or if you're one of those people who goes to bed like now I'm screwed up. My rhythm it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm up. I'm just not normal like everybody else. So normal people tend to see my sleep patterns as weird. I'm some kind of weirdo or lazy or something. But I usually sleep less than most other people unless I get my nap.
Yeah, no, I get the same thing, right? People have always tried to like use that as a weapon against me. Oh,
Yeah.
Steve's up at all hours of the night on the internet. So what? Is that
Right.
something to be controversial? Is that something to be disparaging somebody over? A lot of people spend a lot of time on the internet, but when I'm on the internet, I'm usually doing something.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
writing a blog. I'm making a video. I'm researching something. I'm getting guests.
Absolutely. Yeah. Busy working, working,
Busy,
working it
busy
like a
work.
job.
Oh yeah, I work more hours now than I ever did. Well, I mean, I should say work more hours since I've been on YouTube
Hmm.
than I ever did. Yeah, I was working 40-hour work weeks. I've had 60-hour work weeks,
Right.
but I don't think a lot of people realize how much time really goes into having a successful channel and
Right.
having to get to reach out to people, to have scheduling, to have people come on at the right time. And I had three channels at one time, right? So I
Right.
mean, it was a like juggling a lot of plates at one time. And if one thing messes up, then your whole thing is messed up.
Absolutely. And whenever when you work on a regular day job, you can stop at the end of the day and go home and you're done. But not with this. Whenever you're running a YouTube channel, if you're not making content, you're sitting on the couch. Me anyway. I'm sitting on the couch and I've got Facebook and we're watching a movie over there and I'm responding to things and I'm planning things and I'm scheduled. It just never seems to end. I mean,
Yeah,
at
you feel
least it's
guilty
something
when
I
you're not doing
enjoy.
something too, right? I
What's
mean,
that?
'cause you feel guilty because I mean, I put out like 2 videos a week on the average, two or
Right.
three as hangouts, but I used to do like 5 or 6. But when you're not having like when a day when you're not streaming, even
Hmm.
though you're doing other things like getting a hold of people and reading about things, you still feel a little unproductive sometimes.
Right, right. Absolutely. And I have a friend. I got a shout out to her, Kristen, best name ever here in the chat. I haven't seen her yet this morning. She's been pressing me to do the Twitch. So I've twitched a few times, and I got to tell you, it feels when I sit there and play, it feels very really feels like I need to be working. I'm doing
Yeah,
something
well,
wrong.
you know, I'm on Steam, so I play games. People have
Me
actually
too.
purchased me games, and I'll stream those too, and I play them. And so whenever I'm on stream, everybody who's following me knows I'm playing a game, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like, shouldn't Steve be doing something?
Shouldn't you be working? But you
Yeah,
got a
shouldn't be
job.
working. But I need my downtime as well.
Right, right, of course. Well, if you want to take a minute, let me shout out to the people in the chat. Atheist Pastor is here, Chris. If you want a
Oh, he's
link,
awesome.
a little
Atheist
bit.
Pastor is awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll send him a link. He can join us in a bit if he likes. And Steve McRae is here in the chat. Sandy the Sane is here. Atheist Ant. We've got a lot of people here this morning. Good morning, Booleander. Man, I never say it right, brother. I never. Booleanator. No,
Alienator.
Booleanator. I did it. I got it. Ta-da! Alone and scared. There was me. Well, you were there. Okay. So if you don't mind, Steve, for those, I can't imagine that people in our chat don't know you, but if you don't mind, give yourself a quick introduction. Tell people who you are.
Okay, well, I'm Steve McRae. I've been on YouTube for about 8 years, give or take. I really started being on YouTube more about 5 or 6 years ago after I sold my home and I moved to be closer to my daughter. I'm an ex-naval nuclear propulsion person from the Navy. I was spent 6 years doing that. After going through nuclear power school, I got out. I went into retail. I've been a retail store manager. I've been a retail assistant district manager. I've been an operations manager. I spent about 20 years, not continually, but 20 years total in the retail business environment. But I also have a slight background, obviously, in science. I'm not going to say maths, but I did have to take a lot of maths. But I mean, I prefer to study things like astronomy, like astrophysics, and talk about philosophy. So a lot of stuff on my channel is relating to debunking things like young Earth creationism, having discussions about philosophy, and of course, my favorite thing, to piss off atheists. I love that. But I also piss off theists too, so it doesn't really matter. I'm an equal opportunity pisser offer.
Yes, disturber. Yes. Well, that's
I'm a disturber. Yes.
One of the things. So I was telling you about it briefly before the show. When I first came in. To this. So about a year, January last year, I popped in, I started creating videos. And I thought, man, that ain't fast enough. So I got on the internet and started streaming, or looking for people to stream with. And I ran across you. And one of the things I want to point out, I often tell people that, I've mentioned this story on the internet here, but I don't tell them about this part normally, is that one of the things I distinctly remember, and it's one of the reasons why I like to try to remember calling out people in the chat, is because while I was there, I said, hey, and you said, hey there, Daily Atheist, how are you doing? And you stopped actually and went and looked at my channel. You're like, only 50 subs, huh? We need to get you up. I remember that very distinctly.
I like to help people. I mean, people, will criticize me for that, and they think it's actually a detriment. They think it's something negative, personality-wise. But I've lived my whole life trying to help people. Even when I play games, you get really good at a game, and you want to help new players. I enjoyed helping newer players. That's something that I've always had. And so when I see channels that, you know what, we can help them out, I like doing that. I like to share everybody. It's one big community. Yeah. A rising tide lifts all boats has been my motto for a very long time.
That's a song I hear a lot often in this, in this community. Yeah, people have been wonderful. Now, from there, my experience went with you and Duke fighting over what it was to be an atheist or an agnostic.
Back, by the way. He's actually back on Twitter.
I saw that. So let me go on. So I saw you and Duke, and I'm like, I saw that you happened with Duke, and that was a whole. I mean, the whole debate was. I watched the debate live as y'all debated. That was one of my first experiences, and that was unfortunate. It just you trashed him. I was
being nice too.
Well, he didn't know what was going on.
He had no idea.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know what was going on either, right? I'll tell you, I had no idea what was going on. And so then after that, you made these videos. I don't know if he made videos about what happened after that or not, because I didn't follow him, but I did follow you. And you made videos about what happened and showed the thing. Of course, it's drama, and people come and they love that stuff. I totally get it. I thought, damn, last thing I want to do is get into an argument with somebody about whether I'm an atheist or an agnostic. So I just got out. I didn't do any more streaming.
He was a little outmatched that. He decided to debate me on a topic he clearly was unprepared for and uninformed on. And it's been a year or so later, and he's still recovering. I mean, literally, he just came back on Twitter. I saw him for the first time, and I tweeted something out on mine. And it's kind of funny. It's like, dude, you got cream. Just deal with it and move on. And everybody's been telling him, dude, you don't understand it. Steve annihilated you on it. Right. Move on. I don't think his ego can allow him to recognize the fact that he lost the debate. And by the way, I don't debate very often. I've had 3, 4, 5 maybe debates in total. There haven't been very many, believe it or not.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know.
But when I do debate, I wanted to be pretty decisive. I mean, the first debate that I had was with Wayne Fillmore, and he was a young Earth creationist, and he left young Earth creationism after the debate. I mean, like weeks after the debate, he recognized that I was correct about macroevolution. It did exist, and he was never exposed to anything of that nature before, right? Because the younger creationists are typically isolated. So that to me is a win. I like to have those kind of discussions where I can think that I can change the mind of the person. Right. I thought I could with him. I was severely mistaken, however.
Right. Well, I had no idea what was going on a year ago. I watched it, and that whole event made me. And then, of course, there was the Kyle and you, the thing that happened with Kyle and you, some atheist pastor who's in the chat right here at this moment. We were actually, he was we were flirting with the idea of him coming on and working the morning show with me as a pair and a team. But then all the things that happened with you and Kyle, and it's very public, it's very this and that. And I was like, oh, no.
Well, at least you got we just kind of out of it. So something good became of it. He's a mod for you now. So
yeah.
He's our producer for the NonSequitur Show, and he's producer for my Caffeine Corner.
And he could probably learn me a thing or two.
What's that?
He could probably learn me a thing or two about all this
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I
without
mean,
a
he's my
problem.
go-to guy for everything. If I get
Yeah,
stuck
yeah.
on something, it's like, hey, Bull. I like having him on call too. It's like I got a problem, middle of the night. Bull, help me.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, having to nerd up and do all this myself, it's hard enough just trying to run the show and keep up with the chat. And, especially when we get 2 or 3 people on here, they'll be talking and I'll be running the show and answering things. Then I'll look up and feel for some reason the need to say something. I'll just say something stupid. Yeah.
Coordinated
Well,
thing. Yeah,
just,
a lot of people don't know what goes into a production.
yeah, yeah. So I tell you, it has been a lot of work. Anyway, so we've talked about those things. I was, of course, we can't talk with Steve McRae and not talk about, especially this morning, brother. Of course, I don't want to go around bashing Duke. That's not what we're here to do this morning. It's just that was my first experience with you. I've now invited you on my show. I wake up the day you're on my show and I open my Twitter just like I do every freaking day. And there's like 20 plus things on there in notifications. I pop it up and there's you talking about Duke again. And I was like, what the hell? Where'd Duke come from? And now you tell me Duke.
Yeah, because he left a message under one of your tweets.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, he said something along the line. I mean, his tweet. What did he say in his tweet? Let me see if I can find it for you.
Okay. Because I barely know how to work Twitter. Me and Twitter.
Twitter's a cesspool, man. It really is.
Yeah.
So let me see what his actual. I don't want to misquote somebody. So you had posted this particular video that I was going to be on your channel, and he had posted underneath it a quote. Can I curse on here? Even though
Yeah.
He says, quote, "Tell that prick he's done more to divide the atheist community than unite it."
Okay. Yeah.
And so my response was basically, so me explaining philosophy, logic, and reason splits an atheist community. I'm like, that shows more about the problems of the community itself than my argumentations, because he couldn't refute my argumentations because he didn't understand my argumentations.
Right.
Fun fact: if you don't understand an argument, the chances of you actually, falsifying, disproving, or showing the argument is flawed is negligible for the most part.
Pretty
right?
slim. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty slim. He had no chance at all because he didn't understand the arguments.
Right.
And so he thinks I'm splitting the community. And yet at the same time, the atheists that have actually listened to me, read my blogs, watched my videos, talked to me in person, a vast majority of them that have said, wow, you know what? I didn't know about this before. I've looked at what Steve had to say. It is logically correct. It's reasonable. It's academic. And they'll go with it, right? And they'll start, wanting to learn more. And that's the whole thing. It's open the door and have atheists learn more, so they become better at discussions with theists, or they become better at arguing against younger creationism, right? That's the whole goal. I think like younger creationism needs to be abolished, right? But he doesn't get that.
Well, whenever I saw your discussion, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, when I saw your discussion, y'all were debating over what's an atheist and what's an agnostic. Am I wrong?
Well, the debate isn't so much what it is. The debate is more, if you're going to be using certain terminology, what are the ramifications? What is the baggage that comes along with it?
Okay.
Atheists for years have been told by the American Atheist Republic and the atheist community of Austin that atheism is merely or just a lack of belief for somebody who doesn't believe in God. Well, over the last couple of years, they're realizing that's not correct, right?
Okay.
In academia, the general understanding, the normative usages of these terms is that atheism is a belief position that God does not exist, or theism is false, or the negation of the proposition of theism. This is ubiquitous. These are something that anybody could objectively go look at. But they were never exposed to that, right? They were never told this by anybody, because they're like, wait, what are you, Steve, talking about? Matt Dillahunt, he says this, he must be right. Arn Ross says this, he must be right.
Right.
But then when they go look at it, they go, wow, they're not quite correct on it. Steve is correct that this is the normative type of usage. Now, you don't have to use it. My argument has never been somebody has to use philosophical nomenclature. Right. Never. But if you use colloquial nomenclature like a younger creationist would, to say like a species equal kind or theory equals guess, there's ramifications for that. There's problems that can be brought about, because if you say theory is a guess, evolution is a theory, therefore evolution is a guess, we'll all go, wait, no, evolution is a well-substantiated, theory that has been demonstrated and repeatedly experimented with to confirm and make accurate predictions, right? And that's what even my argument. If an atheist wants to use other terminology, they're more than welcome to. But what happens when they do that? And that's where Duke failed. He didn't understand the arguments that I was levying against him about, if you want to use these terms the way that Duke does, you're more than welcome to. But let's explore what happens if you do. And he couldn't understand that. Hey, Atheist Pastor. Welcome,
Atheist Pastor.
buddy.
Yeah, Chris is going to join
I did
us.
it. By the way, I didn't dox you, by the way. I know you've been doxed twice now for whatever reason. Can't blame me. I'm typing, but I'm not doxing you, okay?
Aren't you responsible for everything that goes wrong in the community?
I'm like the catch-all. I'm like the bar mat. Whatever spills into it, just blame Steve.
Right. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. Yeah, we have a blame MathPig thing going around. Are you familiar with MathPig?
I do know MathPig, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I usually have a hashtag where I blame him for nearly everything, really, to be honest.
Not nearly everything. I don't think there's been anything you haven't blamed MathPig for yet.
I think you're right. I'm just gonna say hi to Chess here. Hi, Chess. I was gonna type it when I could just kind of.
Hey, Chess.
Just say hi. You're next. I want to get you on the show. Of course, it's early for her too. I'm expecting, right?
No, she's in Canada. She's like 4 hours ahead of me or something.
Oh, really?
3 hours ahead of me. She's in Ontario now. Dox her. She's Canadian. I doxed her.
Well, Chess, I got this morning show, so come hang out with me. So good morning to everybody who's shown up in the chat. Brainbug, you're a new one. I haven't seen Brainbug before. Are you familiar with Brainbug? Is that a new stalker?
Yeah, he followed me from Twitter.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think I've seen Brainbug on my show a few times too.
Okay. Well, Darth Dawkins has this habit of like cross-dressing and trying to sneak onto my chat. I don't know why he does it.
Why? He avoids mine. I've had my channel for 8 years, and I've had numerous discussions with Darth Dawkins, and he just will not come on my channel. And then he has the audacity to say that he's only talked to me once on the Council of Google Plus. And yet I had somebody on my show the other day that had not seen in a couple of years, actually, who's been around, who actually ran a channel where me and Darth used to go on and talk. And so I was like, no, Darth, I've definitely talked to him multiple times, and he refuses to go on my channel because I don't run it the way some other people do, where they let him gish gallop and just blow V8. Yeah. I challenge him, and he doesn't like that.
Yeah, he's refusing to come back and do anything with me again.
Did you piss him off?
Discord server, but yeah.
Oh.
Well, I was kind of hoping I could get him to come on the show, not as a combatant. He, every time he engages,
impossible.
You people, I know. I'm a little bit afraid of that. The first time I had him in my chat, because I'd heard about him and seen a couple things. The first time I had him in my chat, Neil wasn't even here. I think Neil was maybe in the chat, but he was working at work, listening on his headset or something. So he wasn't actually watching the chat. And Darth came in and was trying to argue with Neil for some reason. Neil, do you believe this? And Neil, do you believe? I'm like, why are you arguing with Neil? And that was my first experience. Then every time he comes in there, he's always trying to ask questions that have nothing to do with what's going on in the show. And then he's just a douchebag. I'm afraid that if I got him on the show, he wouldn't be any different.
You notice when he came in the other day, when I was in and Jen Eldridge was on, and the stuff he was throwing out is the exact same stuff he used in his debate the next day with Snape.
Really? Yeah, he's all script.
That whole LGBT thing, and I'm transitioning. It was just, as soon as I saw it in the chat, I'm just like,
yeah. And that was, I thought that was kind of, well, I think vile was a good probably way to use against his, he made this big thing there's gonna be some announcement, and it was just vile the way he was trying to equivocate his positions to the LGBTQ community, which is not unexpected. He's not a good person. I can just tell you right now. I've known Darth for 6-7 years, probably longer than most. I remember when he first originally came over from Pal Talk, how he was. And by the way, he's worse now in some ways, but he's worse because he's more learned a little bit than he was before. In other words, he's learned to live from his mistakes, and he's much more crafty and manipulative and Machiavellian than he ever was before. And so this makes him very dangerous to people that don't understand these topics. Like, I watched the discussion he had with Snake, and I think Snake made some huge errors, right? And I don't think Snake really understood what Darwin was talking about. That makes it, when Darwin wants an interlocutor, he wants somebody who understands the wording he's using, his arguments, and I don't think Snake did. But we know his script. He won't go against somebody like Floyd FP. He won't go against Jack Ainstrike. He won't go against Rational Nihilist. He won't go against anybody that knows the terminology, that can explain to the people in real time why he is incorrect and why he makes some serious philosophical blunders, because he'll stop them and he'll just go to some other path. He'll just talk about something else. Yeah. That's his modus operandi.
Yeah. Well, I watched the one where Shannon Q got into him. I haven't actually, got into him. It's like I don't know. He was trying to be him, I guess. And I have yet to watch Chris's experience with him, but just the way it is, I try to be as neutral as I can.
You can't be with him.
No, I don't think you can.
I understand neutrality, but there's certain people out there that you're just going to spin your wheels if you try to remain neutral with. Darth Dawkins is one of those individuals. Yeah. I fear you're probably right. Yeah, because I'd get him on my show, and rather than trying to have a morning show, he'd try to get me into some kind of corner and admit some falsity or some.
Darth Dawkins, all he knows how to do is follow a script.
Yep.
Quite literally, he'll follow that script. When you throw him off the script, he goes quiet. All of a sudden, he'll start yelling, saying you're talking over me. Ask the question again, he'll disappear off the channel for 1 minute or whatever it is, and and then basically go back to where he was. But it'll just go back to the start. And
so he flounces?
So you're admitting this, and I remember when I spoke to him, and he'd say, so you're denying this. I go, no, I'm not denying it. Okay, so because you're denying this, and I just go,
he puts words in your mouth. He does.
What kind of stupid are you?
No, what you got to do is the best way to dismantle Darwin is to have him have one question and stick with that one thing the entire time. Don't let him move out from it. Don't let him go through rabbit holes. The one thing, and just harp on that, because eventually he'll get frustrated and rage quit every single time because he's not getting anywhere. He's not being allowed to gish out. This is why he doesn't go on my channel, because I don't moderate like certain people. Right. I don't let him get away with it, and he hates that.
Well, I had a bit of fun with him. I converted to Hinduism live on the stream. I said that's my new primary, and I'm getting divine revelations, and that's how I know it to be true. So disprove it, sort of thing. I basically used his argument against him, and he rage quit there at one point. It was great.
Yeah, he'll rage quit. He's rage quit on me a few times when we were not his hangouts and way back early days of YouTube career. I like I said, I've known him for a very long time. He would come in, and in real time, he would just get dismantled and just go scurrying away, and then come back again like nothing ever happened the next day and try it again.
Yeah.
Or go around saying to everyone that he destroyed you.
Oh yeah. I'm on his troll list, right? Anybody who's on his troll list is somebody that can actually dismantle his arguments, and I'm like, hey, he's welcome to come into the Discord anytime. He's welcome to come to my channel. I've never prevented him from doing so.
And
he
you're
did lie one time on the real quick on Modern Debate. He actually said straight up that I begged him to come to my channel. Can I have evidence for that from anybody? I never begged him. I wanted him to come on as a guest because people had asked me to try to bring him on, but to say that I begged him is a very far cry from me just saying, hey, you want to come on? I gotta like I knew he wasn't, but yeah, that's not bad.
Hang on, you're not suggesting that he might have been telling a lie or two?
A false.
Crazy, right?
Sorry, it's Steve. I can't.
He's so honorable. I know.
I know he is.
Do I need to bounce Steve for talking bad about?
You might need to. We just can't put up with that kind of stuff.
You don't talk shit about Darth now.
Oh well, like I said, he used to only go into channels where he could have moderation control. Right, he had the ability to mute people, had the ability to kick, and a lot of people, because they liked the views he got for him, would allow him to take over the channel effectively. Well, that worked in the short term, but in the long term, it killed their channel.
Yeah, oh, man.
It really did. A lot of people think too much in the small term. They don't think long term goals, and I've seen it happen where he legit destroyed a couple channels. He destroyed MK's channel. He destroyed Antonio Fletcher's channel, and I just talked to Antonio the other day about it, and he finally agreed about that. He should have never given Darwin's that much power over his channel to decide who can be on, who can't be, and he just gave him carte blanche. You don't ever turn over your channel like that to somebody.
Well, I have a pretty tight group of friends who are moderators, Chris and Jay and Math Pig, and they're usually in there, Dave and Best Name Ever, and oftentimes now they'll delete him before I even see him, or they'll delete him immediately as soon as they figure out. I saw him yesterday or the day before. Was it the day before? He was in there as some trans woman named Fanny. And I'm like, hey, this lady's trying to talk to you, Chris. And Chris is like, no, that's Darth Dawkins. And eventually, he was right.
Yeah, he has a lot of sock accounts. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, you were getting a little bit upset there too, Chris. It was funny because you're going, no, I think this person's saying nice things, and you've helped them. It's like, no.
Yeah, but Chris is like, wait, somebody said I helped them? That's wrong. I'm a Republican. I can't have helped someone. Or no, what do you call yourself?
Wrong country, mate.
Wrong country. He's on the right. He calls himself on the right over there. Anyway.
Although we do have monarchists and Republicans here. I guess I am a Republican in that sense, but it is the polar opposite of of yours?
Well, I prefer to avoid that today.
Me
Steve,
too.
you like the sci-fi, huh?
I do. I grew up with sci-fi, man. I mean, I legit grew up reading books that like things that won the Nebula Award,
Okay.
the Hugo Award. I
Wonderful.
keep on getting confused which ones. With the Nebula Award is the one that science fiction writers give, and then Hugo Award is the one that the actual fans of science give. And I would have a compilation of like short stories that I would read from like Piers Anthony and Robert A. Heinlein, Isaac Asimov,
Loved Asimov.
David Niven. I grew up watching things like Forbidden Planet, which was like the first sci-fi movie in color. I just could not get enough sci-fi, and I still can't. I love science fiction.
Okay, so you're no stranger to controversy.
Ah,
Damn it, microphone. You're
why
no
am I so
stranger.
controversial? Even S.J. Thomas says she brands me as the most controversial agnostic on YouTube. I'm like, really?
Right. So let me bring the controversy at you here. All right. Damn it, microphone. Sorry, people. So you're going down on a desert island in a plane, and you've got a choice. You can only choose one to save either Star Trek or Star Wars.
That's not even a question I have to think about.
Okay, good.
I'm not a Star Wars fan.
I would
Star
hug
Trek.
you. Digital hug. Digital hug.
Star Trek. I mean, that's the only acceptable answer.
Okay,
That's in any possible world.
Okay.
Has anyone actually answered Star Wars to that?
Well,
I
Mama
don't think I've heard
Atheist actually did, and I tasered her through the internet.
Comply.
In all fairness, you're talking about a woman who has TIE fighter earrings.
She does. Yes. Well, all right. So the only reason why I would choose Star Wars would be because, and don't hate me, is because I've seen all the Star Trek. The only thing I haven't seen, I think, is the cartoon series. Other than that, I've seen it all. I mean, I can quote everything to you. Root beer moments, the whole thing. Star Wars, I haven't. I don't know. I know they don't quite have as much stuff. Certainly not as much TV series and whatnot. The only reason why I would ever choose that was because I haven't seen it, and there's a lot there that that would entertain me. But man, I tell you, I could watch Star Trek over and over and over and over and over again and again. We are actually.
I watched some of the animated series, but I remember actually when Star Wars came out. I mean, I legit the day it came out was in San Diego, I believe it was, in a movie theater watching it. I believe it was like 1977 or so, and it was a big 75 millimeter, 72 millimeter, whatever it was. It was a huge screen with the audience. It's like a regular movie theater where you just had like one level. It was multi-leveled, and I remember watching it vividly. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. I think I was 7, and I was like, yeah, this is a really good movie, especially like the scene with the trash compactor and the serpent thingy trying to eat Han Solo. But I had also watched things like Space 1999 and Star Trek, and I just love the Star Trek type thing of that's going out and just exploring, right? Because Star Wars wasn't about exploration; it was about domination. It's like the 4X thing, explore and eliminate your opponents or whatever the 4X things are. But I like the exploration more than anything, and going to different planets to be like, oh, if you did go to this planet and you just met this new civilization, what would it be like?
Right.
And Star Wars didn't have any of that. So
well, what I always say about the two is that Star Trek is our future. And it's a prediction of how we will be. And I like to see that future for us, where we explore, where we work with others, where we excel, and we do these things. And it's got a lot of philosophical points. Star Trek is just wrapped up in modern social, political kind of, like Chekhov and her, all the way back to those things. Having a black woman kiss a man, and having a Russian on the bridge of a presumably, these kind of things. They've always been breaking boundaries. Star Wars is just kill, fight, kill, fight. There's not a lot of there's no moral stuff in there, really. I mean, there's just, it's a run and gun.
I don't know about that.
I'm talking about the movie's property.
The Sith versus like the
I'm a
Jedi.
Sith person.
I mean, people can argue that actually the Sith are actually more moral than the Jedi in some ways.
That's how I would argue, yeah.
Yeah, and some people, Star Trek, same way. People have argued that the Alliance is actually the bad guys in Star Trek. Federation.
The Federation? Yeah, it depends on how you see it. I mean, if people are living a lesser life and the Alliance comes in and raises them up and makes their lives better, I don't really see how that's bad, even if it's insidious. Now, if it were a fascist situation where they came in and opposed their will of kind of thing, I think that'd be different. But then in Star Wars, I think the Siths did a much better job of running the galaxy. The Sith actually ran the galaxy. The Jedis didn't. They didn't run it. They just kind of. I think they did a better job. Whenever
they got caught up in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, whenever the rebels defeated Darth Vader and the Empire collapsed, how was the rebels going to be able to manage and maintain thousands of planets? There's no way. So all these planets, this whole thing collapsed. I just don't think it was personally all.
The same infrastructure would have been in place. The start of the original Star Wars.
What happened when Rome fell?
That's when he fully becomes the Empire.
When Rome fell, huh?
That's when it fully becomes the Empire, because what he does is all the senators basically become regional governors.
No. So I'm talking about when
you mean Palpatine or whatever.
When Vader died at the end of 4, or at the end of episode the Return of
6.
the Jedi.
Yep.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi. When Vader died and the Empire collapsed, that's what I'm talking about. Rome fell.
Yeah.
And when Rome fell, just because there was infrastructure there does not mean they were able to keep up with it. And 100 years later, 200 years later, people are living under the bridges of these aqueducts with no idea how the ancients built that stuff. So, I mean, this ragtag group of a little few people, I don't think could have maintained this system of thousands of planets.
Not on their own.
Matter of fact, it even shows it in The Mandalorian. It shows the collapse where they're all this kind of semi-dystopian thing going on. Individual places are taken up on their own, of course, yes, but the harmony is gone.
I haven't watched The Mandalorian yet, but I will eventually. But yeah, I see. Because I started, the New Hope with the 4 in the series. And that's a good starting point, right? I mean, and then it had build upon that storyline. When I watched Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right.
I literally to this day couldn't tell you a single thing about those 3 movies.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed
except Christian whatever's Dale. I forget his name. How bad an actor
Christensen,
he was,
I think.
Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen. No, what is his name? Christian something. I mean, he was just bad. I mean, Natalie Portman, I love, but I mean, he was horrible.
Yeah, I of those 3, I enjoyed the third one the best because I'm of that age. I'm almost 50. I'm 48. So I was a little kid, and Luke Skywalker was my hero, and then of course I grew up, and he's just a little
Why am
brat.
I always the oldest in the room?
I don't know.
I don't like that anymore. I used to be the youngest. I remember those days. Remember those days when you were the youngest in the room, and you're like, "Oh, these old farts, man! I'm a kid." And now it's like, shit.
I know. Well, and it's all beards now.
I normally have that problem, but I don't today for some reason.
Oh, yeah, not today.
You're the baby right now, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm the junior.
But I like the third one because I got to see how Darth Vader came to be. And I really enjoyed that, the fight and then the losing all those things. I finally got to see how he came to be. But really, as a grown-up, going back and watching the first, episode 4, Luke Skywalker drives me nuts. He's just a whiny, cry little baby. If he was my son, I'd be like, dude, shut up. I didn't spank you enough. Yeah, all he does is cry and whine, about this or that or this or that. I don't know. I was very disillusioned, but I love the graphics. It seems to be
a bit of a family thing. If you have a look at, him, his father, and then the nephew.
It's a personality.
Seems to run. They're all whiny.
Have you gentlemen seen the most recent movie, Rise of Skywalker?
No, not yet.
About 10 times. I love it.
Okay. Well, I got a few minutes into it the other day, and the internet crapped on it, so I haven't got to see it yet, so no spoilers. But
the one before it I saw was okay. I was like,
yeah.
I won't play it anymore.
I hated it. Absolutely hated number 8. But number 9, I rank up there as one of the best ones of the lot, which will give me a lot of hate, but I don't care.
Okay, I see. Godless Comer.
So who is Rey then? Spoilers. I don't care. Who is Rey? Does it explain who the hell she is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it really does. I can
see the look on Chris's face, and he sort of.
Okay, all right. Wait. Atheist Pastor, here you go. Here you go. I took out my earphones, and now you can go ahead and tell him. I have no buds. I can't hear.
No, I'll watch it. No spoilers. I'll watch it.
No spoilers.
If it did explain who she was.
Okay.
Does, yeah.
Here we go.
Yep.
She's a reincarnation of Princess Leia.
So anyway, it turns out that she's Chewbacca's daughter.
Who?
Chewbacca.
Oh, Chewbacca's daughter. That explains a lot. Chewbacca and Jabba the Hutt.
There you go. There was a Wookiee Nookie that went on, and
I'd hit that.
What, Chewie or Jabba?
Well, Princess Leia was actually, her slave or Jabba's slave for a while. So who knows what the hell happened, right?
I'd have been her Jabba. Well, again, I'm at that age. I was like 13 or 14 whenever that movie came out. That tells you a lot. Yeah. Golden Bikini.
Have you watched Picard?
I have not.
Oh, yeah.
Picard's
Yeah.
you know what? I was listening to like Undoomed, who I like Undoomed. He's actually a really nice guy, and I happen to get along with him really well. I know he's very controversial, but he was kind of bagging on Picard, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it because I hadn't watched it at the time. And I was like, I don't think it was as bad as he made it out to be. I thought actually it was pretty decent in some regards.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, so I was like, this is pretty good actually. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be for an 80-year-old actor.
Well,
I think
he's
he's a good actor.
I think it depends. It depends on, I guess, your generation. So for me, the Next Generation, that's what I grew up with. So Picard
me
was
too.
always my captain. Probably more so than Kirk. We'd watch the movies as a kid, but it was always Picard. So I enjoyed that. I guess that fun sort of campy sort of stuff that the Next Generation had. But then, being a few years older now, I want that more adult content. I want to know that there's a bit of realism in what I'm watching, and I think Picard brings that.
I agree. I definitely agree. Matter of fact, I remember back in the 80s when Next Generation came out, and I remember distinctly thinking to myself, this is not going to be like the original series. Right. This is not, they need to do something with this because the first episode, like, was it Far Cry, something at Far Cry or whatever?
Farpoint,
yeah, Cat of Farpoint. And, I was like, it's okay, right? But it took me a while to really get into it. And once I did, I was like, Star Trek Next Generation was really a good show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was really good. I think Deep Space Nine, however, if you really looked at it from a philosophical standpoint, that was one of the best. That was the best writing of any of them.
Agreed. I'm a Niner. Me and the wife are both.
Deep Space Nine was one of the most
I
underrated.
think from season 4 onwards, soon as Worf comes in, the whole Dominion War starts to happen.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I love.
I think Voyager was underrated though. I really enjoyed Voyager.
Yeah.
It had some of the Monster of the Week episodes were
it was okay.
But I think in general,
it was like Jerry Hall.
yeah, Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan.
Yeah, I know who you meant.
Well,
7 to 9. Oh my God, she's like 50 something, and she's amazing.
Still, well, see,
I can tell you, I was about 16 when I used to watch that, and she came on, so that gives you an idea.
Right. Yeah,
the wife and I,
so many memories.
The wife and I watched. She wasn't a sci-fi person when we got together. She'd watched Harry Potter, and that was it. So after a couple of failed attempts with Stargate, and stuff like that, I finally, because she had seen Star Trek. Got her into. We watched the Next Generation. We watched Deep Space Nine. She loved Deep Space Nine. We watched Voyager. She enjoyed Voyager. Then we watched Babylon 5. She really liked Babylon 5. And now we're watching Enterprise. The only reason why we've got Babylon 5 in there is because of the visuals. I didn't want to jump her really forward and watch something cool and then back to Babylon 5. That'd have been rough.
I watched all the Babylon 5 until the very end, and when they did like the reboot, when they had almost all new people, I watched a few of that. I couldn't get into it, I didn't finish it. So there's some episodes I didn't see in the very last season. But I watched the very first one, and I watched them in order, and the movies.
Yeah.
But man, the originals were really good.
They were.
But I got to tell you, that's one of those series that as it progressed, it's got worse and worse.
Well, the thing with season 5, because originally it was meant to finish at season 4, so that's why season 4 had so much jam packed into it. What they ended up doing was putting basically 2 seasons worth. So that's why they cut off with the Shadow War kind of cuts halfway through the season, and then they've got the War with Earth sort of, so that takes up that second half. And then but originally that was meant to be season 5. So then when it got picked up by Warner Brothers, they just kind of had to throw something together, and they used it as a platform to launch Crusade, which was the next show they did, which got axed after about 10 episodes. So.
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
Crusade was horrible.
Good.
Yeah,
it could have been all right. I think it's like anything. If you watch the first season of pretty much anything, especially when you go back and watch them, having watched the entirety of it, they can be hard to watch. I mean, season 1 of Babylon 5, you've got to push through it. Season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, you've kind of got to push through a bit too. It's you're not getting the Borg. It's a little bit campy with the Q episodes. It's.
Well, it just depends. I love the Q episodes. I actually
went with my favorite episode.
When I went to the wife.
He was better down the track.
Yeah, when I went to the wife and I'm like, we're going to watch these series. Remember, the first season is always the roughest, and then we watched like Farscape. Farscape really kind of, despite I'm not a big Farscape person, but I became one. I didn't think it'd be a good one. She loved it. And then got into these other ones, and I'd warn her, okay, remember the first season is going to be rough. Not so much. Next Generation, there's not a lot of difference. It's pretty good. Deep Space Nine, they do pretty good. The first season is a lot of explaining, but then it gets better, and season 3 is really good. Season 4 is freaking awesome, and it just gets better. I didn't care for the ending. Voyager had a much better ending. But whenever it came to Babylon 5, Babylon 5's first season is painful. It's painful. Michael O'Hare is horrid. he doesn't blink. Watch the show again. He doesn't blink. He'll even turn his head and look at other people. So I'm going to look over here at you, and he doesn't blink. And he's just
he eventually
horrible.
left the series because of he suffered from depression.
That's true. He had lots of problems. I totally get that. I feel for the guy. He passed away. A lot of them died.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, but
let me ask you this though. Okay, Squire Gothos, Trelane, Q or not Q?
Q.
I think it's Q too, and I think in the non-canon books they made him Q as well.
Huh. Yeah.
Remember from the original series, Star Trek.
Squire Gothos. Yeah. Played by. Oh my goodness! He also played one of the
the one where the kid was like it was an alien creature and it was just messing with Picard, and at the very end it ends up being like a kid.
Yeah, Squire of Gothos.
Like the First Federation or whatever it is, or something like that.
It was a really original episodes, but it's called the Squire of Gothos.
Yeah, you and I. That's great. He was played by one of the guys who played the 3 Klingons that came in, and one of them was. They came back with Jadzia. He played one of those Klingons, the same actor who played the Squire of Gothos.
King Kodos and...
Yeah, one of them was played by the guy...
Yeah,
one
Koloff,
of them,
says.
Koloff, yeah. It was Koloff. He was Koloff. Koloff was the one. One of them was played by the original Baltar. One of those Klingons was played by the original Baltar from the Battlestar Galactica.
That was my favorite character in Battlestar Galactica.
The original.
Baltar.
Oh, yeah. And of course, I love the next BSG. Godless Scummer was talking about... Koloff, yeah, that's where, Booley and that guy, Bool. Yeah, he was there. Wonderful show. And then, of course, like I said, the guy who played the original Baltar, he was, and all those guys, for those who don't know, played the original character in the original series. So that was
the Tribble episodes, because Klingons hated the Tribbles, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Tribbles could always, they went nuts around the Klingons.
Yeah, the Great Tribble War.
Yeah, I never realized, though, I didn't think about the Squire of... being
when
you said it though, it just popped into my head. I was like,
it
really?
Makes sense though, right? It really does make sense. The kind of powers he had, although his powers came from a machine, but still, I mean, I think maybe the Q Continuum gave the kid the machine and allowed him to do powers, but it's in the I don't think it's canonical, but at least in the books. If that represents canon or not, I'm not quite sure. But do you remember like the Corbinite maneuver that bald little kid? That had the drink that he was like serving to. He was. Did you ever watch the roast of William Shatner? They brought that kid back after like 50, 60 years or whatever it was, 40 some odd years. And he looks exactly the same. I don't remember. He's actually a pretty famous actor right now. I don't remember his name.
It's Ron Harris's brother.
Ron Harris's brother?
Yeah, I can't think of his name right off, but Ron Harris, is that from the Little House? No. Andy.
I don't remember the guy's name.
Ron Howard.
He's recognizable.
Very
recognizable.
Ron Howard's brother. Clint Howard is his name.
Clint Howard. Yeah, Ron Howard's brother. Clint Howard. Yeah. Clint Howard.
Chaka. He played Chaka back in the 60s or something. Chaka. He played
Chaka from Land of the Lost.
Yeah. He also played quite a few recurring characters in Star Trek and Deep Space Nine. In Deep Space Nine, when they went back in time and Captain Sisko and the Doctor were stuck in these slums while... Jadzia had to go find them whenever she got all hooked up with this guy. Whenever she went through the slums, the guy who played Chaka, Clint Howard, was one of the characters who helped her get to. Yeah, so he's all through Star Trek. He's been through quite a few of them. For his, I hate to say he's homely. He's pretty hard to look at kind of guy. He was also in Gentle Ben, for those who don't know.
Was that with Grizzly? Was that with the bear?
The bear, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Grizzly,
I remember Grizzly Adams too.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. Well, I don't remember the guy's name. Let me just check our chat.
All those '80s shows, and I used to watch like Knight Rider.
Oh yeah.
All those '80 type shows. Magnum PI and oh man, those were good stuff back then. Simon and Simon. I definitely watched Simon and Simon. Yeah.
I remember talking about Knight Rider. I remember it was like a special coat of paint or something that made him really hard, and then this semi truck came along near the end of the show and it had the same coat of paint, and that was Quantum Leap reboot required, high reboot required, and then Kimo Maki, I hope I said that right. John Delancey played Q. Of course, I didn't know he's an outspoken atheist, but he was a big time soap opera actor. So
he's a very, very good actor.
That was one of the reasons why my wife liked him so much. playing Q was because we're getting, I mean, she sees him as Q, and that's actually an actor for her, a certain actor. I don't remember his name, a character in an entirely different show. That's sort of like Chris talking about Farscape. With Farscape, to us, it's just Farscape. And they got, now, if you know anything, well, I mean, if you know about Farscape, they filmed it in Australia, so a lot of the character actors who come on one-offs every week, those people were Australian actors. That's all you know. They had Australian accents. But if you're an Australian, they were big-time soap stars and TV stars. And
oh, yeah.
Well, look at like Baywatch. Hasselhoff is like one of the biggest singers in Germany. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. He was a big-name singer in Germany.
Yep.
He actually sung when the Berlin Wall came down. That's how big he is.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, really?
Yeah, they had a concert after the Berlin Wall came down. Yeah, but it's and I learnt that because my first ever concert technically was David Hasselhoff.
Really?
Yeah, free tickets at a corporate event, and David Hasselhoff was there as the entertainment, and it's and as he's coming out, I've thought, shit, this is my first concert, and it's David Hasselhoff, and he was very entertaining. Not that good a singer.
Wouldn't have figured that.
Reboot had asked about Quantum Leap. I did watch all the Quantum Leap episodes. I didn't like the fact that they made Iggy changed Iggy into like a woman, and then he never returned home. I think it ended abruptly. I think they could have done a better job in ending the series. But my favorite one with that episode was when Satan was pissed off that he kept changing the timelines. the Halloween episode, that was epic.
I never,
because he's always trying to save people, but in that episode, everybody dies.
Well, so what did you think of Scott Bakula in Enterprise?
I didn't like Enterprise as a whole. I think he's a very good actor.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But I really didn't get into Enterprise too much.
We're going through it right now.
But it was bland to me.
Well, the reason why, despite I love Picard, him and Sisko are my favorite captains. The reason why I haven't watched Picard yet is because me and the wife have gone through all those except for now we're halfway through Enterprise, and then we've got to watch Discovery, and then we'll watch Picard. But with Enterprise, it's been hard to push through. I mean, of course, I've also been working. Like I've been rebuilding the show, moving from StreamYards and cleaning everything up and doing. It's just been a lot of work, so I haven't had the time. But to be honest, whenever we sit down, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we can watch an episode of Enterprise. We got to get through it, so that's the only reason why I haven't seen Picard yet. It's because Enterprise is just painful to get through.
Yeah.
Let me see here. He was Jane's girlfriend's dad in Breaking Bad. Who is this? Oh yeah, John Delancey. He was. That's right.
Yeah. Jesse's girlfriend was the one that OD'd.
Show. Yeah. That was a good show. We were talking about what are your thoughts about the new Battlestar Galactica? I say new, it's freaking almost 20 years ago. Can you believe it? 20 years. It was released in 2001.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I like the new series, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. Although I do prefer also the original with Apollo and again, my favorite episode I remember back in the 70s is when they actually made it back to Earth. You remember that?
Me too. I love that one. Yeah.
Love that episode. Oh my God, that was so good. Especially the part where he's trying to do all the mathematics. I think it was if I remember correctly, I think it was a guy that played the father on Brady Bunch, Robert Reed. But don't quote me on that. But I remember he was like doing the mathematical calculation. He couldn't figure it out, and Apollo just comes up and is just solves it for him, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's been so long. I remember that distinctly. I remember seeing the Vipers going through the atmosphere, and I remember it's been so long though. And then they did the first season was great, and then the second season was gone. There was no second season. It went to Battlestar 1980, and Apollo was gone.
That was pretty hard to watch.
That was really different. They had such a good thing. I don't really know now why they changed it, but of course then there was also Airwolf. At the same time.
Airwolf, the helicopter. I watched that. Yes,
I love it. Now you see those helicopters are everywhere. You see them landing on hospitals. There's just the Bell 222s.
Did you ever watch Lucifer? Because number 6 from Battlestar Galactica, whatever her name, Trisha Helfer. Oh my God, is she stunning? I didn't recognize her. Well, I was like, okay, I know this actress when I watched Lucifer, but I didn't recognize her. She has changed so much, but she actually, I think, even got better as she got older. Wow. But it just blew my mind when I found out that she was actually number 6 from Battlestar Galactica.
Wow, yeah, because she, really left a big impression. Her in that little red dress.
Oh, God,
You're
I
right.
remember that whole scene where just like the Earth explodes. Yeah.
Well,
Yep,
you
she
know,
was stunning.
the first, whenever they first open it up, and the guy's sitting out on that, the older guy sitting out on that space station waiting to meet and have a meeting, and then the Cylons never come up, and then this one time here they come and the Cylons come in and she walks in and kisses him, and just as the thing goes, man,
I gotta tell you though, the ending of that of Battlestar Galactica, the very last episode, I think was one of the best series finales I've ever seen.
you enjoyed that, huh?
I thought it was excellently done. Yeah, I thought they wrapped it up well. I thought that they explained it. I thought it was extremely well done.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Me and Chris are the
You didn't like
Chris's
it?
are. Well, no, I didn't like it. I liked it. It was entertaining.
I didn't mind it, but it also didn't make sense to me. I just thought it felt rushed, and these people are sort of giving up everything. I understood the whole they've got a home and they're going to start again.
Yeah, they became gods, and Adam and Eve, and it just became like just a recycling of life and death. It was very meta.
Well, yeah, but then they give up all their technology and they go back to dying in their 30s and 40s from childbirth and
Right.
bad teeth. That doesn't, but like in the old show, they went to Earth and they were trying to get to Earth so they could team up with the humans. And
But
that's
we were back in the Stone Age.
yeah, we were. Yeah. So, I mean, there was that, but it was good and entertaining. They didn't answer questions that I would have liked to have had answered, but sometimes you don't get what you want.
I just like the meta narrative stuff. Like
Yep.
one of the sci-fi movies that one of my all-time favorites is 2010 A Space Odyssey. And the reason being, it is so meta about rebirth and life. And, you go through this, you're born, you're starting in diapers and you learn to walk, and then you stand upright, and then you learn to have weapons, and then you die. And that cycle is repeated like 5 times throughout that movie. The Star Child is same kind of thing. It's just astronauts, you again, wearing diapers, and then, rebirth in the obelisk. I love that type of meta narrative.
Right. Yeah. I enjoyed those. Matter of fact, I didn't know that they had extra books that came after them, but they're books.
I read them. Yeah, I read 2010, 2012, 2020. I read those as well.
Yeah. See, I didn't know.
Oh, those are great.
I recently learned that about those. Was
Really?
that they had those? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading those. I read those in high school. I used to be a prolific reader in high school, and I read those. I read all of the foundational series, The Foundation by Isaac Asimov.
Oh yeah, that's
the
my very first book
pseudo-historians.
was The Foundation's Edge. The first book I ever read outside of school was Foundation's
My
Edge.
God, is that a intense book?
It
And I
is.
can't say that at the time I fully grasped it or groped it.
True.
Again, one of my favorite books is Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. But yeah, I couldn't get enough of Isaac Asimov. I read I, Robot, and I was like, this guy is the ultimate genius. I mean, he's physics, chemistry, reason. I was a huge Isaac Asimov fan.
And then he was later on, he was able to pull all those stories together, his iRobot series, his Foundation series, and wrap them all up. You read the iRobot, or you're into the iRobot in the beginning, and you don't really know what happens. I don't remember the character's name right off, the one who went on, and you don't think nothing of it, and then you see the Foundation series, which is based thousands of years later, and part of it you find out one of these guys is actually a robot.
They're all in the same universe, I think.
Yeah,
Like Stephen King does that a lot. A lot of his books are interrelated to each other.
Yeah, well,
same
these
fictional
weren't in the
universe.
beginning, but he tied them together with these little extra books and stuff. It made it really wonderful for me. I loved Isaac. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness, he was my first favorite, best author.
Yeah.
20 years. Yeah. Somebody else is pointing that out as well.
Yeah, he
Boo
was really good
pointed
at that.
Yeah, I loved him. He was also a member, one of the founding members, I think, of Mensa. I believe he was the vice president of Mensa for a while.
But if anybody really wants to read something of just, you don't want to put down, read the Foundation series.
Yeah.
Very intense.
That's good stuff. Yeah. And the first Foundation and the second Foundation and the things they've got going on and then the Mule. Man, it's been a long time.
I might have to even reread them one of these days.
Yeah, I would love to
so
see.
long.
I would love to see a faithful Hobbit-like as far as that kind of quality. You know how they did with the
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I would love to see a Foundation series with that.
I
kind
don't
of
think they could
attention
fit it
to
in. It's just too big. I mean,
Yeah,
each book is like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
massive
So it'd be very difficult probably to fit it in a decent sized movie.
and do any justice to it. No, it'd have to be a series, obviously. Yeah,
I mean,
this
look at
whole
Dune.
series.
I mean, I remember reading Dune. I read a lot of the Dune books by Frank Herbert, and well after I saw the movie, the first movie I saw was with Sting. I saw in a drive-through, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. It wasn't until after I read the books, I'm like, oh, I at least have an understanding of a little bit of the melange and spice. Why is his eyes turning blue? What's going on here? Who are these bald-headed women? I didn't understand any of it until you read the books, and you're like, oh, okay. So I don't know how anybody can watch that movie and go, I know what's going on. No, that movie doesn't explain anything.
No, it doesn't.
Nothing.
No. I don't know. I liked Dune as like a mental escape to just something to sit and watch, and was cool. But I didn't really have any understanding of what was going on.
Yeah, he was the first from Atreides to actually be able to withstand when you take the melange, which is created those sandworms, right? They would drown a sandworm, and the last breath of the sandworm, they would drink this, and the mothers, remember those mothers, what they call the mothers of, they would be able to drink this and become one with basically the universe and be enlightened, and no man could ever do it. It was only women that could actually drink this, and any man tried, he died. He was the only one male that was actually been able to go through that process and drink that elixir and survive, and that's why his eyes turned blue and all that stuff. I didn't know any of that until I read the books. I'm like, okay, this is the whole the waters of life. But what was it they called, the mother, the reverend mothers? That's what they were called.
Yeah. I just kind of vaguely remember something about it. I remember the eyes turning blue. I guess I was
because he survived, because he was a male that actually was able to drink that and not die.
I remember there was the one scene where this hunter-seeker thing was going through, and he had to be real quiet, and he had to grab it and catch onto it, or else it would stick somebody, and it was one of those kind of
Should have Boulanger on. Boulanger read all these books too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows all about these topics.
I'm not against that. I need to get with him, too. Get him on. I'm not scared. And I saw Chesh in there, too. I'd like to get her on the show, too.
Yeah, she's pretty well read, too.
Yeah. Is she a sci-fi? See, she may come in on the regular morning show.
Well, she'll probably say Star Wars, so we can't have her in.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got this taser button right here.
As long as she says Captain Kirk over Picard, I'm okay with that, because I like Picard, but Captain Kirk was still my captain.
Oh, man, I tell you. I can bounce him from the stream.
You've got your next Twitter war here, Steve.
I'm sorry.
Well, are you familiar?
Okay, here's a trivia question for you. Who was the first actual captain of the Enterprise?
Captain Pike?
Nope.
No.
Are we talking about
Robert, Captain April?
April. Yep.
Is that something that we're going to see in the
Robert April was the first captain.
Discovery?
Right. Pike was the second. Yep. A lot of people don't know that, but yes.
Is that something we see in Discovery? I haven't watched all of Discovery yet.
No.
I didn't know. Okay. Cool.
It was actually, I think it was in the it was either the books or the cartoon series. I don't remember. I know it was mentioned in the cartoon series once, I think.
I think it was mentioned in the original series once. They'd mentioned that he was the captain before Pike.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was in the original series.
Or like on a cartoon where it says Robert April, and but yeah.
Well, of course, in the reboots, we never see Robert April. It goes right to Pike. So, and I'm wondering, have you guys heard are they going to do any more? I don't know that they're going to do.
I know they like Discovery. They've got to, because the whole thing with Talos 4. I mean, that planet was the only place in the universe from the Federation that still had the death penalty, right? Because the death penalty was abolished by the Federation. But if you go to Talos 4, you're still susceptible to the death penalty, and the reason being is because that civilization, that the menagerie, which was the cage, was so their technology was so great, that their psionic abilities, that they could actually, in theory, destroy the entire Federation, because they make people believe stuff. It was an existential threat to them. That's why they made it. If you go to that particular planet, you can be executed. It was a huge existential threat.
Yeah, well, they have. I think they've announced that they're about to announce they're going to do like an Enterprise series with Pike.
So a separate one kind of thing, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so they're going to run that. So they're going to run that because they've got a couple of shows I think they're announcing. So there's below the deck as well, which is like a cartoon, which is just like the janitorial crew or something on a starship. It's a bit of a comedy, but
I hadn't heard about that.
And I think there's another one that they're bringing out. But yeah, there's a third season of Discovery, should be out soon. Hopefully they might.
Yeah, they've got like 1,000 years in the future.
Really? Yeah. See, I got so much I got to get through this Enterprise, man. I got to get through Enterprise so I can, me and the wife, right? So we can watch these new series and catch up with all this stuff that's going on. Sounds like there's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far you're into Enterprise. Maybe skip it.
Yeah, part of me wants to, brother. And the wife, I'm gonna go out here. I'm telling her she hates Riker. She hates him.
He's not a director.
She doesn't mind him as a director. Yeah, fine as a director, he's fine. But as an actor, she can't stand him. So with Enterprise, you know what happens at the end of Enterprise. You know who the cook is.
Well, yeah, if you've seen it, yeah, she's going to really
she's going to hate the fact that it's not a real ending. And then it's not, because she's in the other room. I can't talk too loud. That it's not a real ending.
The ending of Enterprise was terrible.
Yeah, so it's absolutely just I got to get her through that.
I'm pretty sure I watched the whole series, but I don't remember.
Well, the deal is, the last episode. It's not actually really the Enterprise. It's actually, or it's not the. It's the Enterprise D, and it's a hologram on Enterprise D, and Riker is the cook. So they go get advice from the cook all the time, who you never see throughout the show. And it turns out it's all just a hologram.
I do remember something similar to that. Yeah.
It's kind of a real.
They like doing those weird Inception type endings type thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Voyager was wonderful. You know, they're trapped inside that Borg sphere, inside that tunnel, the what do they call them?
The
transwarp conduit, and it all collapses, and then they come out and they're like, and here's Voyager, and here's this glorious fleet of Federation ships to escort her back home. The only thing I would have liked is a little bit of after, you know, what happened after. But they escort the Enterprise or the Voyager home. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, glorious. There's parts of Borg ship just flying about, and then they roll credits. Like Deep Space Nine was like, oh man, a whole episode of music and looking at this character and looking at that character and looking at. I mean, I was really let down with the end of Deep Space Nine.
I think that was the nice thing though. They got home and they were able to just end it on that.
I like that.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Just a tiny little bit of, but you know, the Doctor. I really enjoyed the Doctor. He's my wife's a nurse practitioner, and she hates any medical scenes on TV. She hates them. They drive her nuts. Most doctors, she hated the Doctor from the Next Generation, Dr. Crusher. Doctor's orders. Crusher was
my favorite.
Yeah. Who is?
It wasn't Dr. Crusher. Who was the one before her?
The Doctor?
Not Polanski.
No.
No, Polanski either. She was even worse.
She was worse.
It was not a fan of that
the first Doctor would be McCoy.
No, there was one other one, wasn't there?
No,
it wasn't McCoy. There's another one they had.
No, it's just the redhead on Enterprise.
The EMH.
Oh, yeah,
that guy was awesome.
Yeah, he's from Voyager. Awesome. Oh, Voyager. Yeah, right. Voyager. Yeah, Voyager.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He was wonderful. Yeah, he's the only one she likes. I think she likes Phlox a little bit, but that's partly because in the Enterprise series, there's so many characters that are not. They're hard to get attached to. So Phlox, even though he's not wonderful, he's not bad. You know.
There's some pretty wooden characters in that show.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get through. I'll tell you.
But I mean, the last season was okay, I guess, just because they jammed a lot of stuff into it, and it's if you're a fan, there's a lot of lore kind of things in there. So
yeah,
you know,
that's kind of the benefit. Is it? Well, you know, all right, I'm gonna go there. I'm going there. Something else that pissed me off about Enterprise. It was the first one that kind of went outside of canon. They decided, well, you know, Romulan War isn't fun enough. That's not enough excitement. Let's not do the Romulan War that should happen here. Let's bring in the Xindi, who nobody's ever heard of. We've never seen nothing. It's all of a sudden this time war, and now we've got this time war with this future people, and none of this, all this has no bearing on the Next Generation.
That was meant to be season 5, the Romulan War.
Well, no.
Agencies
What
involved in all stuff? The time agency that they had to deal with. Remember, there wasn't like some of the time people that try to keep the time.
Yeah, I think they were from the year 29 or something.
They were from way far ahead. But whenever at the end, so the Xindi, who we've never heard about before, so they're not a member of. Nobody knows them. So they come in and they try to destroy the Earth at the first part of season 2. And then, instead of
they've done that though, because every series has sort of had a new bad guy they've introduced. Like the Cardassians were introduced for DS9,
right? But the Cardassians didn't change anything by adding the Cardassians. You didn't change anything to the timeline of Deep Space Nine or Star Trek. But by adding the Xindi before the Next Generation, the Xindi was not there. They literally created it. That's the first time they branched off into a new timeline was with Enterprise. That we see. Now, of course, they did it again with the new movies, the reboots in 2009. Kirk's dad was killed on the ship because of the Romulan coming back in time. So that's a new timeline too. I get that. Totally. What I'm complaining about is that, and I get it, that it is a new timeline and that was one of the things, but they didn't have to do that. They had the Romulan Wars that they could have worked on and gone through and started that. But no, they had to come up with this imaginary race nobody's ever heard of before and do this time thing to where there's all this stuff, and it just didn't do it for me. Kind of one of the things that really yanked me out of it. When they could have just stuck with Star Trek. The canon that was there was plenty and fine.
Yeah, I don't mind guessing a little bit with canon, but sometimes I do go extreme. I was still processing the whole like canonical changes, like with Doctor Who.
Oh,
you know, I love the fact that I did something different for a change, because the whole season 12 sucked. I'm sorry, it was the worst series season of all of Doctor Who's.
Really?
And by the way, I'm a huge fan of her too. I watched Broadchurch. She's a brilliant actress. Yeah, brilliant actress. The writing sucked. Chris Knupp. Yeah, he took Moffat and just said, you know what, we're not going to do anything that you want to do. We're going to try to relate it back to the original and this, and this. And everybody's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I think he was the worst showrunner so far, and I think he did her injustice. But the last episode of Doctor Who, where they just changed canon completely, at least they tried something, and it was one of the better done episodes. But you still go, wait a minute, now you're it's like you're in a different universe now, because now everything's changed.
Yeah,
it's a whole different thing, whole different ball game. So,
yeah. Boole wants to. I don't know if I said it right. Boole wants to point out that Remus was mentioned in the. It says Remus and thus indirectly Remans were mentioned in the original series. I don't remember.
Yeah. And by the way, the original series, a lot of stuff with the Greek and Roman gods and stuff like that. I mean, remember who shed a tear for Apollo? I think was the episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I remember
the pantheon. Apollo was the gods were being worshipped. That's where they got their power from.
Mm-hmm.
And when the people forgot about them and stopped worshiping him, they lost their power.
Right. Yeah. Here's one he talks about in the episode where Mark Leonard played the Romulan commander. That was one of the best episodes. I remember that where the Enterprise ended up destroying that Romulan ship. That was a good one. I can't think of the name of it right now, but of course Mark Leonard played the Romulan commander, and then he went on to play Spock's father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ambassador Sark.
Ambassador Sark. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was And he's one of the very few that actually played that part for multitude different the movies, the show. I mean, he was around for quite some time.
Yeah.
Not a bad little gig to get, hey. Keep showing up every few years.
I think, believe it or not, I mentioned Riker, but I think Riker was the only actor to actually be in like all 5 series.
Probably because of his appearance on that Enterprise one.
Yeah.
That's I hadn't thought about that.
He was the only one.
I won't tell wife that she hates Riker. She hates Riker. She hates. Usually, she hates the first. What's that?
Did he show up in DS9?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on DS9.
Q episode.
All the way to DS9 at some point.
He was on Q on Deep Space Nine as Thomas Riker. He stole
he split because of the transporter accident.
Yeah. And in DS9, he came back and stole the Defiant and tried to attack the Cardassians.
So. And then there was an episode with Data and Dr. But what was his name? The Bashir.
Mm-hmm.
And he was learning. He was like just fascinated by Data being a synthetic. That was one of the cooler episodes, you know. But it was really kind of weird because if you remember the episode, Dr. Bashir, who's supposed to be a scientist, had this alien thing, his alien piece of equipment. They didn't know what it did, and he just like stuck it into the Enterprise to power it up and try to test it out with no protocols, no safety thing. And I'm like, that got to me. I'm like, really? As a scientist, this is you just take some alien equipment, you have no idea what it does. But we're gonna just stick it into our power supply and see what happens to the ship. What could go wrong there, right?
Yeah. That was another one that the wife hated. She did the Dr. Bashir. She couldn't stand him. He was like, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. She didn't. Yeah. And then of course again with the Doctor who had no name, he was the favorite doctor. But what about what the hell was O'Brien? O'Brien and Bashir's relationship was really wonderful to watch them develop over time.
Yeah, I like Bashir. I thought he was a good actor. I thought he did a really good job on that.
I like seeing him afterwards. Every now and then I'll see him in something. I'm like, oh, hey, look, there's Bashir. Matter of fact, I think he's in the new Batman series, Gotham, but I haven't seen it. He plays Naz Al Ghul, I think.
Naz Al Ghul. Oh, yeah. Well, I watched the Arrow series. I didn't watch Batwoman. About from what is it? What is the name of that woman from Arrow? Azul, Agul. She's the daughter of the demon.
Talia al Ghul.
Talia al Ghul, yeah. Wasn't it Ross or something? Tasha.
Oh, Raj al Ghul's.
Raja Ghul.
Oh yeah. Okay, Talia. Yeah.
Whatever. I don't remember the names, but that Arrow was good. I liked that series. I think again the ending was odd, but I thought it was pretty good.
Gotcha. I've never seen it. I've never checked it out. Well, guys,
now, I'm going to have to run.
What's right?
It's actually gone after 3 a.m. here, and I do need my beauty sleep. Despite what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and shut her down now. Thank you, Chris, for co-hosting with me again. I very much appreciate you showing up, and thank you, Steve. Man, you're awesome. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you for the invite. These are fun. I enjoy these
Yeah.
discussions. They're enjoyable, especially when you get to talk about stuff that I haven't really talked about in a very long time, because I haven't read about these things in a long time. But I love science fiction, man. Science fiction is the way to open up your mind and explore possibilities. And people that like philosophy, people tend to like science fiction because it just allows you to think, and allows you to be creative and dream. And that to me was something I grew up with, and I hope I never lose that.
Well, I'll let Chris bounce real quick. Chris, thank you for showing up, and then I'll ask you one more question on the stream, okay, Steve? And then, okay, all right, thank you, Chris.
You're not gonna start talking about me when I'm gone, are you?
Yes, actually.
Okay, no, fair enough. I understand. No, look, thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'd love to hang around. I think you started an hour later, but that's okay because daylight savings is about to end here, and it'll make it better for me talking to people in on that funny side of the world back in the past where you are.
Gotcha.
So I'll bid you all adieu, and thanks for having me in.
Thank you. See you later.
See you.
So real quick, Steve, well, I guess real quick is kind of up to you now. Was there any sci-fi that helped move you away from, I don't know your move away from religion story. For all I know, you were never religious, but if you were a Christian or a person of religion, was there anything in sci-fi that helped pry you from that? Some people have a good story about that.
Well, I mean, I wasn't religious growing up. My mom, basically a cultural Jew. My dad was Protestant. My brother was Jehovah's Witness. But most of my family is Lutheran, Protestant, Methodist.
Gotcha.
Everyone a gamut. I joined the Mormon Church when I was 17. Left later on. Never really was that active, but I had a major issues with them funding Prop 8 in California back in, I believe it was 2008. I thought that church shouldn't involve themselves in state propositions regarding gay marriage, right? I thought that they were crossing the line there, and especially when later on I found out they actually had donated money to a group called the Evergreen Project, I believe it was, which was reparative therapy and conversion therapy, which we know does not work. In fact, just doesn't work. It's actually very harmful.
Yeah.
And I couldn't support that any longer. But as far as like science fiction, I don't really know. The first book that really opened up my mind, and when people have asked me, "Hey, Steve, what philosophy book do you suggest reading?" I don't read a lot of philosophy books as a whole. I go to Google Books. I'll read various chapters. I tried reading some Hegel. I tried reading, some Hume and some Kant directly. It's very difficult. I've actually read that you may not think of off the top of your head as being philosophical, but yet they really are. And the first book I really read that just opened up my worldview exceptionally was a book called Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions by Edwin Abbott. And I recommend that book to people, and people have actually read it, and they're like, yeah, we see what you mean now. They actually really enjoyed that book. It is about, society. It talks about, trying to think you're in higher dimensions, and it represents what a deity would be. If something came into our universe, how do we recognize it as a deity?
Mm-hmm.
And it really was a fantastic book if you've ever read it.
Goodness. Okay. Yeah. I've heard of it, I think, but I've never read it, but I've heard of it.
It's about a society that lives in a two-dimensional plane that's based upon a caste system that the more sides you have, the higher you are in the caste system. Right. So a triangle would be a low person, a square is like a merchant. Then as you start getting more polygons and more shapes, you get higher up to the king. And then a perfect sphere would obviously be infinite amount of sides, which would represent some kind of deification.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So when a sphere from a third dimension starts moving through the second dimensional plane, and a square, somebody sees it and says, "Oh, look, here's something that has infinite sides. It must be a perfect being," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely have heard of it. It's the things you're telling me are familiar. I remember that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Great.
And the best part about it is, the women in the caste system only have a single line, so clearly they're the lowest of the caste system.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also the most dangerous and most revered, because what can a line do in a two-dimensional plane if you're not paying attention? Like if you're a square, it could bisect you. And what happens when a square gets bisected? It destroys the sphere of the square, and they die. So you got to be real careful around women in flatland, because
Really?
if they get upset with you, they will instantly kill you, or if you're not paying attention, they'll just split you in half. So even though they were the lowest of the low in the caste system, they were the most revered, which I thought was a nice play on how our caste system is a lot of times, where people have, throughout history, men have always been the higher patriarch, I guess they can call it.
Right.
But in reality, women are the most dangerous.
That's
and
right. Hell hath no fury, right?
Dichotomy there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's a good philosophical view. I could see it being something that you'd want your child to read, as or a young person.
I read a lot of stuff as a kid. I mean, I read one of my favorite books to read as a kid was a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. Ever read that?
No, I've never read that one.
Doldrums, but it's about a kid that just basically has a dog with a stopwatch in his chest, and there's a toll booth, and he's able to go to different worlds and explore different things. And I like that kind of stuff. I also read like the Incarnations of Immortality series by Piers Anthony. I read Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, another brilliant series. Wow. Anything I think that expands your view on reality and gets your mind being creative and exploring different things, I think is philosophical, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I'll let you run.
Oh,
I'd love to have you back on in the future if you ever get the time on a Saturday. Saturday's the latest show, easiest for you to make, of course. And then, of course, thank you to everybody in the chat for showing up. All the new people, you brought quite a few people with you. I appreciate that. Thank you to everybody. We appreciate you, and I will see you later. You guys have a great weekend.
Enjoy your weekend, guys.